All right, how you guys doing out there? It's Michael Chapman. Again, we're having another business development interview, and this time we have our guest, Jacob Reola from Liberwave, CEO and founder. Go ahead and say hi to everybody for me.
Thanks for having me, Michael. I appreciate you inviting me over to be a part of this interview. Hello everyone. My name is Jacob Reola, founder and CEO.
Great. So one of the things that we wanted to do is, I know there's a lot of tech enthusiasts, tech
Mhm.
entrepreneurs, young guys, young kids out there that maybe have thought that tech may be the area that I want to go into because I've seen all the great things that have happened with, the increase of social media through Instagrams, your Facebook and Twitter. So I kind of wanted to spend time and talk with Jacob on how he got started, some of the things that he's done to make himself successful. So we're going to go through and just ask him quite a few questions. And as we go through, hopefully we will interest some of you guys out there. We have the chat on, so if you guys have questions, you guys are free and more than welcome to put them in there, and I'll ask them away from the question that you guys present. So, Jacob, let's talk about what sparked your interest in wanting to create Liberwave. What made you start this new venture?
To me, that's a loaded question, but what got it ignited was that there really wasn't a used textbook marketplace. And I realized this during my after my spring semester of nursing school. I had so much free time after the semester, and as a nursing student, I was so busy. So the only thing I had to do was clean my room. And when I was doing that, I was looking at my nursing textbooks. And when I was looking at it, I realized that I got lucky because I managed to buy 5 semesters worth of textbooks for $250 from a graduate student. And most students, they spend more than $1,000 on their textbooks. So that was one part of it. The other part is in the past, whenever I wanted to sell my biology textbook, I would literally wait outside my university bookstore and snipe students out who wanted to buy a certain textbook. And I would stop them and say, hey, I heard that you wanted to buy an anatomy and physiology book. I'll sell it for you cheaper. And the ATM machine is down there. So when I was in my room, I realized this and I did my research. And like I said before, there wasn't really a market for it.
Right.
And a lot of people have tried to do it before in the past and no one was successful. So from then on out, I decided, you know what, I want to give this a shot. And that's how it started from there. I called up my co-founder, who is also my brother, and I told him to do the research. And he was like, let's go test this idea, see if people want to exchange their textbooks directly to each other, and let's just build an app together. And then we've been at it ever since.
That's very interesting. So you saw that there was a market for that based upon you being able to get your books for cheap. I remember back when I was in college, and I can attest that college books were very expensive. And so you saw that the market was there. Did you immediately go to look to see, who were the major players in this game, like your Amazons, and thought that maybe you compete? What was your idea behind getting with your co-founder and saying, hey, I think that we have an area to actually win in this?
Yeah, so we definitely did our research. First, I did some local research on if there's anybody else selling their textbooks locally like I did. Turns out at Midwestern State University at that time, there was no Facebook textbook exchange group, and there wasn't a lot of people using Craigslist. And then I branched out to other universities. They had textbook exchange groups, they had Craigslist, but the marketplace for that used textbook was so scattered. As for the bigger industries like Amazon and Chegg, yeah, they do offer cheaper used textbooks, but the issue wasn't the used textbook buying price, it was the selling back price. So let's say that you bought your textbook from Amazon or Chegg or any other big company or even the bookstore for, let's say, $250, and you want to sell it back at the end of the semester. Either two things are going to happen. Either one, they're going to say they can't take back that book, or number two, it's they're gonna give you maybe like less than a quarter back for that book that you bought. So you're getting very little for all that money you spent on that one textbook. So that's the research I did. I also did some surveys and did some looking on Reddit as well, and that's how I was able to find out that there's a small gap in the market that's not being addressed, that people are already doing but hasn't been centralized.
Right. Definitely. And let me ask you about, possibly sampling a market. And whenever I started Re-envision, one of the things that we did was we went out and grabbed some random people and said, hey, business development, as far as an entrepreneur, Does that interest you, and would you be interested in taking courses? What about from the textbook aspect? How did you guys go about seeing if there was a market for what you guys were trying to accomplish?
So I wasn't a business student, but to answer this question thoroughly, I've talked to a lot of business students and some professors, and they said make a business plan and talk to some investors. That, in my opinion, was not a good idea. So I talked to my co-founder, and he said, you know what? I know some people who have successful businesses from like Mint.com
Mm-hmm.
and AppSumo and all these other bigger businesses, and they just said, if you have a business idea, don't go write a business plan, don't go looking for an investor, test it.
Mm-hmm.
So that's exactly what we did. In less than 4 months, we built an MVP, and then we went to Texas A&M. We started a booth there just to build the brand awareness and to see and validate the idea is what they call it.
Uh-huh.
And in less than a week, we were there for a week. In less than a week, we had over 500 Facebook likes. We had over maybe 1,000 downloads, and our table was always packed. And all we had was an MVP. Like we didn't have any textbooks. We didn't have any users at the time, but that was the validation we needed. And because of that, we got lucky on our MVP, which is a minimal viable product for the people watching out there. We also had some transactions that go through. We weren't expecting that. So that's how we validated the idea. And then from there, we just started getting better and better and better and learning from our mistakes.
Yeah, that's a good deal. So I kind of want to backtrack a little bit, and I just want to talk to you about entrepreneurship as a whole. So for you, being a CEO and also a founder of a tech organization, what is your favorite aspect of being an entrepreneur?
My favorite aspect. I would say it would be wearing the hat of many roles. Some days I'm a project manager. Some days I have to try my best to be like a developer. Some days, I have to listen to my co-founder and be the grunt. I mean, you have to do a lot of things in a short amount of time, and you gotta adapt quickly. So that's one of my favorite things to do. Is like I'm able to gain the experience through learning through experience. And secondly, it's a roller coaster. There's some days where I'll have the best highs, like, hey, we had a win this week, and then there's some days where I'm like, what's going on? I can't believe this is happening. What do I do? So those two alone, those are the best things about being an entrepreneur in a tech company.
Yeah, definitely. And one of the interesting things, and I see and you see too, as we're both on social networking, right? Facebook, Instagram, and we see kind of the trend that is being played out where, entrepreneurship is like this fad that, almost everybody can do. What is your thoughts on it? Being somebody that is, working day in and day out to try to push not only just a personal brand, but you're actually trying to build a business and organization with employees. So what do you think about the way that entrepreneurship and the title of it has kind of changed and morphed with social networking?
Entrepreneurship is great. It gives people jobs, and it helps bring in new innovation into the economy. But for people who want to get into entrepreneurship, I hate to say this, but it's literally not for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
It's not for everybody. If you think you have a great business and you're not willing to share it or validate it, and you're planning it to yourself sitting in a room and not doing anything about it, then your entrepreneurship's probably not for you. But if you have an awesome idea and you're actually doing something, then it might be for you. I mean, a lot of it, I think the best three traits for an entrepreneur is you have to have persistence, because it's hard, and you're shooting in the dark, and you have to be willing to adapt and be aware of what's going around you. Like, you have to be aware of yourself. You have to have that emotional intelligence. You have to have that IQ. There's a lot of things you need, and you have to have patience.
Right.
And if you don't have those three things and you want to be an entrepreneur, then you have a long way to go, and it's probably not for you.
Right. Let's expound on that a little bit, because you just mentioned one of my favorite words is patience, especially with the game that we're trying to play. How has patience, played a part in your overall development?
Patience played a big role in my overall development, because Liberwave is such a seasonal business. So we have to do a lot of planning, a lot of implementation in a short amount of time. And, it comes twice a year. So that patience, I can't do anything that can speed that up. It's either what I do is going to be successful
Right.
or it's not. And a lot of people, they think, especially some people I know at startups, they think that if they make a startup, they're going to make 25 grand tomorrow.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a lot of failures, and if you don't have the patience to learn from those failures and figure out what's wrong or what you have to do to make it better, then it's not going to work out.
Yeah, definitely. It's important that people have realistic expectations. And like you said, they're not going to come out making 25 grand right out of the gates. It may happen, and everybody has a different story, but for all of us, it's not immediately I'm going to just be out there excelling. I'm not going to be the Mark Zuckerbergs of the year. I mean, of my generation. It may be, hey, you're making 100,000 or maybe 45,000. Maybe it's just enough to make ends meet. But truly, when it comes down to patience, it's sometimes you may not win for the first year, may not win for the second year, but it's what you're willing to put in it because you believe your idea is going to work. Yeah, definitely. So let's talk about the hours that you put into your business on a day. What does a day look like in the life of Jacob Reola?
The day, oh man. Nowadays, I'm so busy trying to balance out like my personal life and the business and everything else that I'm doing. It can be burdensome. Like you don't want to burn out, but like every morning I wake up, go to the gym, I read my emails, I find events to attend for Liberwave, I message people that can possibly help us out.
Mm-hmm.
I look at our analytics, like what's working, what's not working, what are we doing wrong. I do my research. I co-work with my employees and anybody else who owns a business at co-working spaces. That's basically my day. Eat, sleep, and repeat.
Eat, sleep, and repeat. So let's say, realistically speaking, if I'm planning on starting a business and maybe working from 8 in the morning to 5 p.m., is that the lifestyle of an entrepreneur? Can I even have a sustainable business if that's my whole goal, at least from a tech perspective?
It can be. I'm not going to say that can't happen, but there are entrepreneurs who work more than 60 to 80 hours a week. A lot of it depends on where you are in your business and what are you going to do next. I mean, when we first started off this business with my co-founder, we were going at it hard almost every day of the week and lack of sleep, trying to figure out how to build this, trying to find people to help us, or especially our developers. I mean, it wasn't easy. We were attending a lot of events, and that was taking up most of the day. We come home all tired, go to sleep, and then there was maybe when we started getting better, and we started getting more people to help out, or we started working less hours for a little while until things started picking up again. I mean, because this is such a seasonal app, man, there's going to be some really fast times and some steady pace times. So for other people out there, it may be an 8 to 5 nonstop straight. That's a real thing. I mean, Elon Musk probably does that.
Right. Yeah. But he has the infrastructure and the people to, get him to where he needs to be. And I think that's a huge piece too. And you mentioned it, finding your team, establishing a team to where it makes your job easier and not harder. And even for us, just finding, the right program or even the right designer. I mean, we went through quite a few programs before we found one that we liked. And it's difficult out there because not everybody has the same passion. Not everybody has the same work ethic. So finding that right person definitely makes things a little bit, difficult, at least in the game that we're playing. So talk to me about success. How far is Jacob Reola willing to succeed? How far is he willing to go to succeed?
That sounds like two questions, but how far am I willing to go to succeed? Ideally, I want Liberwave to be across the United States because it's such a big issue when it comes to textbooks. So I'm willing to go that far. As for, what was the other question?
That was the question in itself. So how far were you willing to go to succeed? Yes.
Okay. Okay. So yeah, that's how far I'm willing to go.
Okay. And it definitely, I believe that you guys can be playing in every single university, whether it's community college or your big state colleges. You guys could definitely play in that field. Have you guys thought about possibly in the future? And I'm just shooting in the dark there. 5 or 10 years from now, is this app planning on being one that is universal across the world, maybe like in Europe and some of them other universities overseas?
Yeah, it could happen. It could definitely happen. it depends if we can make things make things in the end meet up and be what it is, and then if it does happen, we'll definitely do that.
Okay. Perfect. So we've kind of talked about best case scenarios, but let's kind of go down the other path. So let's talk about your fears as being a CEO. What are some of the things, or what is that one thing that you fear as it comes to, or as it relates to Liberwave?
I would say not doing everything I possibly could have done, and quitting when it's not yet time.
Uh-huh.
Like quitting prematurely, in other words. Those would probably be actually two of my greatest fears when it comes to Liberwave, especially since, like I said before, we're shooting in the dark.
Right. Yeah, definitely. Because you hear those stories, those success stories where everybody told them, "Hey, your product's not going to work. Hey, you don't have a great market for what you're trying to do." And you hear all the time people say that they pushed through, right?
But yeah.
They pushed through and they kept on going, and they said, "You know what? You can go with all the haters can go somewhere. I'm going to focus in because I believe it works." And you hear those stories, those success stories of people actually becoming successful. So, are you one of those CEOs where, hey, I'm going down to my last breath, or have you thought of, okay, well, this is how much time and this is how much energy I'm going to put into it, and if things don't go my way, then I'm going to be going to the next thing. What is your thought process on that?
Yeah, I'm definitely one of those CEOs that's not going to give up because the results speak for themselves. And when I first started this idea, a lot of people said, "Hey, Jacob, you're stupid," or "That's a stupid business idea. It's not needed," or "People will just use Amazon," or whatnot, right? And that was very frustrating and very mean for them to say it. So I didn't like that at all. But when we started getting results throughout the years, we figured out what was working, what's not working.
Right.
Those naysayers just ended up shutting up, and then more people wanted to work with us. What do people know if they never tried it?
Right, definitely. And one of the things I've talked with my co-founder about is that you have people that see you on that have known you for a period of time, right? And they may not be able to see you in that light and what you're presenting to them. So you say, well, hey, I'm the CEO of this tech company, and people look at you. Well, I remember you were that kid in high school. I don't see you doing that. So people already look down at maybe who you are or what you're trying to achieve. And you have to spend that time not only developing your product, but also proving to the naysayers that I am who I said I am, and I am going to walk in that light that I told you I was going to do, a year or 6 months ago, whatever it is. So it is an interesting dynamic from that perspective. Yeah, so let's talk about marketing. What are you doing right now to market Liberwave, and what are maybe some successful things that you can help people out there that maybe don't know from a very new company? What is the most effective and maybe affordable way to market a tech company?
That depends. The answer is it really, really depends. Marketing is not easy.
Right.
People think it's easy. It's not. But what worked for us, without giving away what we do for marketing specifically, is we leveraged social media, in-app referrals, and our brand ambassador / intern program. So that's what's been helping us get out there, being involved with the university, so on and so forth.
Right. So other than social media marketing, you guys have had to actually go out and do something, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Yes.
So it's interesting, and even with running my advertising agency, I run into business owners that believe that, and I think I spoke about this on my last interview, that all I need to do is have a sign outside in front of my door, and that is the marketing I need. If I put the sign out, the consumers will come, right? But it takes more than that. You have to get off your butt. You got to actually go out there. You got to network. You got to meet people. You got to talk to people.
Mm-hmm.
And what would you say to somebody that maybe is not good with talking and building connections with people? What would you say to that individual?
I would say they need to find a PR person.
Okay.
They would definitely find someone who can help them market. If they're not good at talking to people, they need to find out what their strengths are and play to that, and figure out what their weaknesses are, and find someone who can fill that role for them, so they're not juggling too many things at the same time and wasting their time.
Right.
That's just what I think.
Right. And that kind of rolls me to my next question on skills that an entrepreneur would need to have. What do you feel are maybe a few top skills that you need to possess in order to be a successful entrepreneur?
The three skills. I would say grit,
Mm-hmm.
adaptability, and patience.
Okay.
Man, without those things, you probably won't even last very long, because the moment someone says that your idea is inadequate and you can't adjust to the situation
Mm-hmm.
and you don't have enough patience, your company's just gonna self-destruct. And especially if you're the leader of that company, then
Mm-hmm.
it's not gonna end well.
Okay. Yeah, definitely. Talk to me about the second one, adaptability. Well, why is that one important?
That's I have to learn. I went through this experience myself.
Mm-hmm.
I had to go out there and network more. I'm not much of a talkative person,
Mm-hmm.
especially if there's not much to talk about. And then I also had to. There's a thing called emotional intelligence. Like if someone, let's say an investor, talks to you and says you should be doing this or you're not doing this, and he's not willing to listen, and then you get angry and you say something bad to the investor, you don't have that emotional intelligence and you don't know how to adapt
Mm-hmm.
positively to a negative situation.
Right.
And that's a very important trait people need. They need to be aware of not only of their surroundings, of what other people are thinking of them or what they want, but they also need to be aware of who they are inside and
Mm-hmm.
how to adjust to that negative situation and make it positive and make it work into their favor.
That's definitely true because I know so many people that their heart is so into it that they don't know how to take a step back and from an emotional
Mhm.
outlook and say, okay, let me look at this realistically and what is the correct way to respond? Whether that is people saying that your product's not going to work, whether that is you reviewing, you looking out and you seeing that there's a competitor that's doing something comparable to what you're doing that you didn't see that came
Mhm.
up, or like you just mentioned with, pitching your idea, adaptability is very important because you never know what side a dart's going to fly from. So
Mhm.
definitely true. Definitely true. So, talk to me about your personal life. What kind of sacrifices have you had to make in order to run Liberwave?
Personal life. I would say I sacrificed taking a very traditional role for someone my age. I'm 26. Most people I know, they get their degree, get a job, and work several years in that particular career,
Right.
not actually taking a risk
Mm-hmm.
for themselves. I would say that would be my sacrifice, and I'm glad I'm an entrepreneur doing that at such an early age, because now, like, not only am I getting experience that if I ever decide to go back to that traditional role,
Right.
it'll always be there for me, and I'll always have more experience to bring to the workplace that some students or
Definitely.
other people who want to apply for that job may not have.
Yeah, because truth be told, the university is still going to be there tomorrow and probably,
Mhm.
4 or 5 years from now too as well. But, an idea, they have their time and places. Um,
Mhm.
and for everybody, depending on what your idea, it may be right for this season. And if you don't execute
Mhm.
on it, you may lose your opportunity. And the nice thing
Mhm.
about you, being 26, is that you still have a lot of life left. So if this
Mhm.
does work for you, well, then you can decide, hey, if I might want to go to, start another venture. Or you can say, hey, you know what? I kind of done with Librewave. I want to kind of pivot in my life. But the nice thing is that you have not waited and you've decided that you want to execute on what you believe is important and what you're passionate about. So I definitely
Mhm.
applaud you for that. And
Thank
being
you.
a young entrepreneur, that's huge. Um, so let's talk about work-life balance. And I know that's an area that I struggle in a lot, being that I have a wife and kids. And so I'm interested from your perspective. How do you manage the things of the day, your family, work, people, interactions, all that kind of stuff? How do you manage your work-life balance?
Sleep is important for me, but I try not to do it too much so I can do more throughout my day and
Mm-hmm.
get more work done. But it really lies with time management and planning ahead.
Right.
Like what are I don't know if you heard of the triangle before. Like pick three things, and out of those three things, pick two that you really want to do,
Right.
and the third one will be left off to the side. So
Right.
that's how I balance it. Is just time management, planning ahead, and sometimes I might not be able to commit to a plan that I wanted to do in the future because I'm so busy.
Right. Definitely. definitely. And it's hard because you never know what happens in a day. And a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
I'll plan out, and I'm a huge planner, so I'll try to plan out my week, and and it goes back to that word adaptability. But a lot of times,
Mm-hmm.
what I plan to do tomorrow may not happen like I wanted to. But then, as you
Mm-hmm.
mentioned, the triangle, I still know that I still need to spend, this amount of time with my kids. I still know that dinner needs to be done. I still know I need to spend this time with my wife. I still know I got to do these things. So I think you hit the nail on the head. What is important to you,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to fit it into your schedule. Or if not, you'll lose it, right?
Yeah, yeah, it does happen.
Yeah. So what about sleep? Do you feel like you get enough sleep, or is sleep not even a priority? Because if you were to ask anybody that knows me, they would tell you that I probably need more sleep and that I work too much. Would you say the same thing for yourself?
Yes, I would say so too. But when it comes to sleep, my sleep is so irregular. There's
Mm-hmm.
some days where I'll pull an all-nighter, sleep all day, and there's some days where I'll just stay up all night and day, and then just binge at the next day. So it's I just it comes with the
It
territory.
does. It does. Definitely. I agree with you there. So let's talk about businesses out there. Is there any business that you look up to, or maybe even any CEOs that you look up to and you admire at this point?
Yeah, there's companies I like and there's CEOs I like. The companies I can name right off the top of my head that I like is definitely like Apple, Lyft, Amazon, Cisco Systems, Udemy, Fiverr, and startups that are willing to go against the giants and innovate today, like your company, Reinvision.
Appreciate that.
And it's not just the company I like; it's what the CEOs did to get there, the sacrifices they made, and the opportunity they took when it was available to them at that time.
Right.
Like there's never going to be another Apple. It's too streamlined, and
Right.
Lyft. If anybody knows what Lyft is, I mean, Uber was their competitor, but here in Austin, people from whom I talk to, they seem to like Lyft better because they have a better service and treat their employees better, so on and so forth. So those are the ones I admire the most.
Right. Definitely. Definitely. I agree with that. So we want to give you guys some background information on how I met Jacob, and I kind of should have told you guys this at the beginning, but it's interesting, and I kind of want to go back to what he mentioned about EQ earlier, emotional
Mm,
intelligence, because a mutual friend of ours gave me his contact information, and I just reached out to him, sent him a text message, and said, "Hey,
mm.
I'm going to be in Austin. Do you mind if I meet up with you? Because I'm starting a new venture, and I want to talk with somebody that is in the tech space." And Jacob was a great guy. He immediately messaged me back and said, "Yeah, hey, whenever you come down here, just send me a text message and we'll meet up." And we had lunch together. And from there, every time he comes to Wichita Falls, he gives me a shout out, let me know he's there, and we try to meet up if we
Mm,
can to have a conversation, sit down with the meal, and just talk
mm,
about where we're at. So I want to say to you guys, he's a great guy. I definitely want you guys to download his app, which is both on the iOS and also on Google Play Store, so you can get it for the Android as well. If you go to his website, liberwave.com, all you got to do is put your phone number in, and he'll send you a text message right to yourself where you can download that
mm.
app. So before we leave, Jacob, I want to let you have the last word. Do you want to say anything out there to some of these guys, girls, young and old, that may be aspiring, want to be an entrepreneur, and may not know what to do? Do you have any lasting words that you want to give them before I let you go?
If you want to be an entrepreneur, don't wait. Try it. Validate your idea. Tell people about it. Don't keep it to yourself because what you know, nobody else is going to copy and do it the way you do. If you tell everybody that you want to build a tech company for cars or something, go ahead and tell people you want to do it. It'll put you on the map and validate that people want to do it. Find a way to validate it. And if someone wants to copy your idea, go ahead and let them copy it. They're not going to do it as good as you. I mean, don't wait. Do it now because the longer you wait, you could be letting an opportunity slide.
That's 100% true. Well, you guys, I appreciate you all tuning in to us, and definitely I appreciate my guest, Jacob Reola, CEO of Liberwave, for stopping in and talking with us about business development. So thank you for your graciousness. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.
All right. Thanks, Michael. Appreciate your time. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem.